It was 2175, and the galaxy had long since become accustomed to the regular hum of humanity's transmissions, radio signals, television broadcasts, military comms, all pulsing through the vast stretches of space. The United Earth Federation had established itself as a quiet but significant player in the galactic community. Earth, though still considered primitive by most advanced species, had proven itself capable of remarkable progress, from tech advances to global unity. Humanity had sent out signals of peace, broadcasted music, movies, and even scientific discoveries into the void of space, hoping that someone somewhere would hear and recognize their potential. But then, silence. It wasn't like a flickering light that fades before vanishing. It was instantaneous. One moment, Earth's transmissions were reaching their usual destinations, and the next, they simply weren't. Not a single signal, not even static. For days, no human-made message reached beyond Earth's atmosphere. The Alien Council took note immediately. The Drellians, a race known for their commitment to diplomacy, were the first to notice the anomaly. Their advanced sensor arrays, which monitored interstellar communications for peacekeeping purposes, showed nothing, no weak signals, no stray data packets, just nothing. For a moment, their sensors flagged it as a glitch, a system error. But when the days turned into a week and the silence persisted, the alarms were raised. By the time the galactic powers had called an emergency summit, the implications of Earth's silence had already begun to send ripples of fear through the coalition of advanced civilizations. The Throne, a fiercely territorial and militaristic species, were the first to voice their concerns. What if humanity had discovered something they weren't supposed to know? The thought was unthinkable. Earth, with its primitive technology and unruly factions, was the least likely to pose a threat. But the silence was undeniable. Commander Tarex of the HFY, an insectoid race known for its ruthlessness, was the most vocal. "They've done something," he said, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "They've found a way to silence the galaxy, to block our communications. That kind of technology is not only dangerous, it's a weapon. It must be neutralized before it's too late." Other factions, particularly the Karen and the Drellians, urged restraint. The Karen, a peaceful species who had dedicated themselves to understanding the galactic tapestry, insisted that Earth's silence might be voluntary, a way of protecting themselves from the eyes of the galaxy. They speculated that the humans, knowing how much they were being watched, had chosen to go dark out of fear. "We cannot assume hostility where there is none," said Zelthi, the Karen ambassador to the Council. But as the days stretched on without any contact, the majority of the galactic powers, particularly the HFY, began to fear the worst. Earth's silence had raised suspicions, and where there were suspicions, there was always the threat of war. Back on Earth, in a nondescript bunker beneath the surface of a military complex in Nevada, Colonel Mate Walker stared at the empty screens of his communications console. His heart raced. He knew the silence couldn't last forever. Sooner or later, the galaxy would demand answers. The real question was, when they came looking, would humanity be ready? The first week of Earth's silence had been unsettling, but by the second week, the panic was palpable. Across the galaxy, military councils convened, surveillance satellites were repositioned, and countless ships drifted toward Earth's borders, their missions unclear. The coalition of advanced civilizations had never encountered anything like this. Earth's sudden disappearance from galactic communications sent a shockwave of fear through the most powerful factions in the galaxy. The Throne, a species known for its unrelenting militarism, were the first to call for decisive action. Commander Tarex, the leader of the Throne Fleet, stood before a holographic projection of the Galactic Council, his armoured figure towering in the council chamber. His voice was a low, menacing growl. "We cannot afford to sit idly by and wait for Earth to make the first move. They have cut off all contact. They are hiding something, whether it's a weapon or something worse. The HFY and I agree. We must go to Earth, secure it, and neutralize any threat before it becomes a problem for the rest of the galaxy." The HFY, a race of insectoid conquerors known for their brutal efficiency in battle, immediately lent their support to the Thrawn's plan. Their fleet, already massive, was mobilizing at full speed toward Earth's orbit. The insectoid general, Kreknath, clicked his mandibles in eager agreement. "If the humans have developed the ability to shut down galactic communications," Kreknath said, "then they must be stopped before they decide to expand that power. We are doing the galaxy a favor by removing them now." Tarex and Kreknath weren't the only ones pushing for a military response. Other factions in the coalition, including the Voltri, a race of heavily armed cyborgs, and the Tyranny, an aggressive, energy-based life form, expressed their support. These races had little patience for what they saw as weakness or unpredictability. To them, Earth's silence was a signal that humanity had grown too dangerous, or perhaps too arrogant, to be allowed to exist without oversight. But not all of the galactic factions shared their view. The Drellians, ever the diplomats, voiced their deep concern. Ambassador Corran from the Drellian delegation, a tall, ethereal being, was one of the few who stood firmly against the tide of aggression. His voice carried the calm of centuries of experience. "We cannot assume that silence equals hostility," Corran argued. "Earth is a world that has been misunderstood for a long time. We must explore the possibility that they have simply chosen to retreat from galactic attention. They are not an enemy, they are a fledgling species. We should reach out, not attack." While Corran's words were reasonable, they fell on deaf ears. The coalition had already been divided over how to deal with humanity for years. Too many factions feared the unpredictable nature of Earth's rapid technological advancements. And now, with Earth's radio waves completely blank, that fear had grown into something more primal: terror. The decision was made. A preemptive strike would occur. The Thrawn and HFY would lead the assault. And Earth, unaware of the growing storm in the void above, prepared for its own defense, though it didn't know just how close the galaxy was to war. Back on Earth, Colonel Mate Walker and his team at the United Earth Defense Initiative monitored the situation with increasing urgency. They had known this might come, but now the time had arrived. With no way of knowing when the first alien fleet would arrive, Walker began finalizing Earth's most secretive defense protocols. If the galaxy came looking for a fight, humanity would be ready. As the galactic fleet assembled in the outer rim, preparing for the strike on Earth, something unexpected happened. While the coalition's military factions mobilized with alarming speed, a group of influential voices in the galaxy began to question the rush to war. The Karen, a species renowned for their wisdom and pacifism, had long advocated for peaceful solutions in interstellar conflicts. Their position in the coalition had always been one of cautious diplomacy, and they had never once advocated for violence. Now, as the drumbeats of war grew louder, they found themselves once again on the defensive, trying to avert a catastrophe. Zelthi, the Karen ambassador, stood before a gathering of the council, his calm, telepathic presence radiating through the chamber. His species was known for their ability to communicate in subtle ways, using shared empathy to understand others' intentions. "Have we forgotten who Earth is?" Zelthi asked, his voice a soothing, otherworldly hum. Humanity is not an ancient empire like the Thralm, nor a war machine like the HFY. They are a young species, still learning the ways of the universe. We must not let fear cloud our judgment. What if Earth has chosen this silence for their own reasons? What if they are simply trying to protect themselves from the same destructive forces that have plagued our galaxy for centuries? Ambassador Corrin, a Drellian of great standing, nodded in agreement. The humans have shown tremendous resilience in the face of adversity. Their history is filled with moments when they were faced with extinction, only to rise stronger. They don't seek to conquer, they seek to survive. Despite their impassioned arguments, the war factions of the coalition remained unmoved. The Thralm and the HFY pressed on with their plan, convinced that Earth's silence was a form of aggression in itself. They had already sent reconnaissance drones into Earth's atmosphere, hoping to catch a glimpse of some kind of weapon or anomaly that might explain the humans' sudden retreat. Back on Earth, Lieutenant Colonel Nate Walker sat in a darkened command center beneath the Nevada desert, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He had spent years preparing for a moment like this, but now that it had arrived, he felt a deep unease. There was no way of knowing for sure what had caused humanity to shut itself off from the galaxy. Was it fear? Or had they uncovered something they weren't meant to? "Colonel, we're picking up some strange readings," said Lieutenant Grace Turner, a communications officer, her voice tight with concern. "It's faint, but there's something out there, something beyond our normal surveillance range." Walker's pulse quickened. He didn't need to ask her to elaborate. He knew exactly what it could be. The alien fleets were closing in. "Alert all stations. Get the defense systems online," Walker barked, turning to his team. "We need to be ready for anything. And pray that the Karen are right, that the galaxy can still find a peaceful solution." But in the deep recesses of his mind, Walker couldn't shake the thought. What if they were too late? The first alien ship to break the silence did not come from the vast fleets of the Thralm or HFY. It was, in fact, a single vessel, smaller than the warships that had been gathered on Earth's border, but far more unusual. Its design was sleek, almost organic in appearance, as if grown rather than built. It was the ship of the Karen, a race known for their peaceful ways and their rare, yet profound, intelligence. Their very presence in the galaxy was a symbol of calm in a universe often filled with chaos. Zelthi, the Karen ambassador, had arrived alone. His mission was simple: to reach Earth and understand what had happened, to make contact and ensure that humanity was not dragged into a war that could destroy them. He understood the tension surrounding the Earth's silence, but unlike the others, he was not blinded by fear. The Karen had learned long ago that assumptions based on fear could only lead to destruction. As his ship entered Earth's atmosphere, Zelthi communicated his peaceful intentions using the universal telepathic frequency, a language shared by many species across the galaxy. His message was clear: "I come alone with no weapons. I seek only knowledge and understanding." But the humans, still on edge from their sudden isolation and the looming threat of invasion, were not ready to hear it. Lieutenant Colonel Nate Walker and his team had been monitoring the skies for days, expecting the worst. They had already identified multiple alien ships in the outer orbit, but this new vessel was different. Walker watched from the darkened command center as his sensors registered a unique, unfamiliar energy signature. "Sir, we're picking up something unusual," said Lieutenant Turner, her eyes glued to the screen. "It's not a warship, but it's not like anything we've seen before." Walker's hand hovered over the console as he considered the implications. Could this be another reconnaissance mission? a trap set by the alien factions? Or was this the diplomatic outreach they had been hoping for? The silence of the past 2 weeks had left humanity on edge, paranoid, ready to strike at the slightest provocation. As the Charon ship descended toward Earth, it sent out another telepathic message, this time directly to the human leadership. The message was clear. We have come to understand you. We will not harm you, nor do we wish to bring you into conflict. We only wish to learn why you have chosen silence. Walker's mind raced. The Charon were known for their non-aggressive stance, but after the brutal posturing of the Thrall and Shigar, could the humans trust this envoy? Earth had become the focal point of a galactic storm, and the last thing they needed was another misstep. "Alert the Council," Walker said, his voice grim. "We need to open a channel with them immediately. Let's find out who's behind this visit, and if they really come in peace." As the ship drew closer, Zelthi's words reverberated through Walker's mind. There was a part of him that wanted to believe in the Charon's goodwill, but trust wasn't something that came easily in a galaxy on the brink of war. The arrival of the Charon ship marked a turning point, but it did little to quell the rising tensions in the Galactic Council. On Earth, the situation had grown more critical by the hour. The presence of the alien ship alone was enough to put every human defense system on high alert. The military wasn't taking any chances. If the Charon had come in peace, they still needed to prove it before humanity made its next move. In the United Earth Defense Initiative's headquarters, Colonel Nate Walker and his team were on edge. The Charon envoy had sent messages, peaceful messages, but that didn't erase the fact that Earth was facing an overwhelming military threat. War was now inevitable unless something drastic changed. On the galactic stage, the Council was in chaos. The Thrall and Shigar factions, having already begun preparations for a full-scale assault on Earth, were furious at the Charon's interference. The Thrall, particularly, saw any attempt at diplomacy as a delay in their plans to neutralize the threat they believed Earth posed. Commander Terex, standing at the center of a heated council chamber, slammed his fist onto the table, causing a ripple of energy to pulse through the room. "Enough of this dithering," Terex growled. "The humans have already shown themselves to be unpredictable. We've wasted enough time. The only way to deal with them is to strike hard and fast." The Shigar general, Kreknath, was in full agreement. "We've already seen how they fight," Kreknath's sharp, clicking voice echoed in the chamber. "Their defenses are stronger than we thought. But that doesn't matter. The galaxy's stability is at stake. If we allow humanity to grow unchecked, we risk another race like the Tyranny, unpredictable, dangerous. We need to act now before they can launch any surprises." The Charon ambassador, Zelthi, stood silent as the room erupted into further debate. His presence in the council was typically one of reason, but now he felt more isolated than ever. In his heart, he knew that humanity was a species worth saving, worth understanding. But the zeal of the war factions was an unstoppable tide, one that threatened to engulf his mission of peace. "We must think of the consequences," Zelthi finally said, his voice calm but firm, sending ripples of telepathic energy throughout the chamber. "If we attack, we risk losing not just Earth, but the potential of an entire race. I urge you to pause to reconsider." His words, however, fell on deaf ears. The Thrall and Shigar leaders, their minds set in stone, were no longer interested in hearing Zelthi's counsel. They had their own path, and they were prepared to follow it. Back on Earth, the situation was rapidly deteriorating. Colonel Walker had ordered a full lockdown of the military's most sensitive defense systems. They had detected the incoming fleet, several hundred ships, some of them the most powerful in the galaxy. The battle was now inevitable, and Earth's only hope was to buy enough time for a diplomatic solution to materialize. But the clock was ticking, and as the alien fleets neared, Walker knew that no matter what he did, humanity would soon be tested in ways they never had been before. "It's too late for diplomacy," Walker muttered under his breath, staring at the approaching ships on his screens. "But I won't let them take Earth without a fight." The day the first alien ship appeared on Earth's radar, the skies above the planet seemed to darken. The sheer scale of the invasion was beyond anything humanity had ever prepared for. Hundreds of ships from the Thrawn, Saga, and their allies began to slip out of the black void of space, cutting through the heavens like predators circling their prey. The silence had been broken, and Earth was no longer an unknown entity in the galaxy. It was a target. At the United Earth Defense Initiative, UEDI, headquarters, Colonel Nate Walker and his team watched in stunned silence as the alien fleet grew ever closer. Their fleet was massive, overwhelming, far larger than any force Earth had ever been capable of mustering. The first wave, led by the HFY, was the largest, their ships gleaming with a cold, metallic sheen. They were coming for Earth, and they weren't asking questions. "Deploy all defense protocols," Walker ordered, his voice calm but resolute. His hands flew over the console, initiating the launch of Earth's most advanced weaponry. He had known this day might come, but the sight of it was still gut-wrenching. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, watching the ground beneath crumble. A warning klaxon echoed throughout the command center. The defensive satellites, which had been dormant for years, began to spring to life, their deep space sensors locking onto the incoming ships. The first line of defense would be Earth's electromagnetic shields, powerful enough to disrupt most incoming energy weapons. But even the best shield wouldn't stand up against the onslaught of dozens of enemy warships firing in unison. "Shields at full power," said Lieutenant Grace Turner, her voice steady despite the rising tension. "But the HFY fleet's weapons, they're unlike anything we've seen before. The first wave will breach within minutes." Walker's fingers hovered over the launch console, and he made a decision: activate the quantum cannons. The quantum cannons were humanity's secret weapon, an experimental energy weapon that harnessed the fabric of space-time itself. It was humanity's ace in the hole, and no one, not even the aliens, knew just how devastating it could be. As the first HFY ships neared Earth's atmosphere, the sky was filled with a brilliant, unnatural light. A pulse of energy tore through space, and with it, a massive explosion of force. The quantum cannons fired for the first time in battle, unleashing a wave of energy that sliced through the closest HFY ships like a hot knife through butter. The alien vessels exploded in violent bursts, their shields no match for the devastating attack. For a moment, there was a stunned silence. The HFY fleet had been caught off guard, their ships disintegrating in midair. But the moment of triumph was short-lived. More ships followed, hundreds of them now, surrounding Earth from all angles. The HFY and Thrawn commanders, stunned but undeterred, immediately adjusted their strategies. This was not a war of tactics. It was a war of annihilation. Back in the command center, Walker's face was grim. The first strike had been successful, but it wasn't enough. They had bought Earth only a few precious minutes, and the real battle was about to begin. "This is just the beginning," Walker muttered. "Brace yourselves. The galaxy is about to learn what Earth can do when it's pushed to the brink." The battle for Earth had begun, and humanity's resolve would be tested in ways they had never imagined. With the first wave destroyed, Walker knew that the alien fleets would come again. This time, with all their fury. The war for survival was only just beginning. The moment the first wave of the HFY ships had been decimated by the quantum cannons, it seemed as though the battle had swung in humanity's favor. But that fleeting victory quickly turned to dust as the remaining alien fleets adjusted their tactics and launched a retaliatory strike. The skies over Earth darkened further as Thrawn ships surged forward, their sheer numbers dwarfing the previous wave. This was no longer just an invasion, it was an annihilation. Colonel Nate Walker stood at the center of the UEDI command center, watching as his screens blinked red with alerts. The alien fleets had regrouped, and now they were coming in force. The first wave might have been repelled, but humanity was far from safe. The Thrawn warships, massive and heavily armored, began to fire with brutal efficiency. Each shot seemed to crack the very air itself. "Brace for impact," Walker ordered, his voice a low growl as he pressed a hand against his console. "Activate the secondary shields and prepare the next salvo of quantum cannons." Lieutenant Grace Turner's fingers flew over her own console, her brow furrowed with concentration. "The secondary shields are up, Colonel, but we're seeing some power fluctuations in the northern sector. The Thrawn ships are hitting harder than we expected. The quantum cannons are recharging, but we may need a few more minutes." "We don't have minutes," Walker muttered under his breath, his gaze fixed on the incoming ships. The Thrawn weren't interested in a slow, methodical conquest. They were an unstoppable force, willing to sacrifice ships and soldiers to crush humanity's defenses. Above Earth's surface, the battle intensified. Brilliant beams of energy shot across the sky as humanity's defensive weapons clashed with the alien onslaught. The skies above Earth lit up with fire as the alien ships unleashed their destructive power. Massive explosions rocked the planet's atmosphere, visible from every corner of the world. The shockwaves reverberated all the way down to the ground, rattling windows and shaking buildings. In space, Earth's defense fleet, the few remaining warships humanity had been able to scrape together, engaged the enemy. But their numbers were too few, and their weapons were no match for the firepower of the Thrawn and HFY. The space battle quickly turned into a massacre. Small human ships were torn apart as they tried to retaliate, their weapons ineffective against the overwhelming alien forces. But humanity was not without its strengths. The quantum cannons, still recharging, were capable of devastating anything they hit. But they needed time. It was in those brief moments of silence between each blast that the Earth's defenders found their hope. They had done the impossible once, and they could do it again. Back on Earth, Colonel Walker's mind raced. He had anticipated the need for brute force, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. The HFY and Thrawn were fighting like they had nothing to lose. Walker knew it wasn't just about Earth anymore. It was about the very survival of humanity itself. "Sir, we've intercepted a transmission from the Karen ship," Lieutenant Turner said, her voice almost a whisper. "It's urgent. Zelthe wants to speak with you." Walker's heart skipped a beat. The Karen had always been the voice of reason, the one species trying to avoid war. If anyone could stop this madness, it was them. But time was running out. He took a deep breath, trying to focus. "Put him through," Walker ordered. "We don't have much time." As the screen flickered to life, Zelthe's calm, almost serene face appeared. His voice, filled with both concern and determination, echoed across the command center. "Colonel Walker, I know that you are fighting with all you have, but this war will destroy you. The Coalition does not understand the strength of humanity, but they will learn. However, the time to avert total annihilation is now. You must make a choice, peace or your extinction." The Karen had offered humanity a chance. But could Walker make that choice before the galaxy crushed them all? The weight of Zelthi's words hung heavily in the air, as if the very fabric of time had stretched and warped in that moment. Earth, on the brink of annihilation, stood at the precipice of a choice that would decide its fate, not just for the immediate battle, but for the future of humanity itself. Colonel Mate Walker's mind raced. The Karen had offered a path, peace, negotiation, a chance to avoid further bloodshed. But the price of that peace was unclear, and time was slipping away. The Thrall and Exshigar fleets were relentless, and their firepower was overwhelming. Earth's defensive lines were crumbling under the strain of the assault, and even the formidable quantum cannons, though powerful, couldn't keep up with the sheer force of the alien attack. Peace, Walker repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. How can we even think of peace when we're fighting for our lives? You saw what they did to our fleet. The Thrall, the Exshigar. They'll never stop unless we make them. They'll wipe us out, just like they did to the Tyranny, the Voltri, and countless other races. Zelthi's eyes, calm and wise, met Walker's gaze across the communication screen. You are right. The war factions do not see Earth as it is. They do not understand your capacity for survival. But it is not through further destruction that you will win their respect. It is through a demonstration of your will to stand firm without breaking. Walker's chest tightened. The alien fleets above Earth weren't just here to conquer. They were here to break humanity. And yet, in the heat of the battle, Zelthi's words resonated with something deeper, something that felt right. Earth had always been a world of defiance, of rising against impossible odds. It was humanity's strength to endure, to persist when everything seemed lost. We've already fought our way through the impossible, Walker said, his voice gaining strength. And if that's what it takes to win, if standing firm, showing them who we are, then that's exactly what we'll do. A chill ran through him as the battle raged on, but Walker knew now that Earth's true weapon wasn't the quantum cannons or the military hardware, it was the resolve of its people. He turned to his team. Listen up, Walker said, his voice firm. We're not surrendering, and we're not backing down. It's time to show the galaxy that we won't be crushed. Get me the communications link to the Coalition's leadership. All of it, now. Sir, they might not listen, Lieutenant Turner warned, but there was a spark in her eyes. Doesn't matter. We will be heard, Walker replied, his resolve hardening. The command center buzzed with activity as Earth's final message was broadcast to the alien fleets. It was a message of defiance, of a species unwilling to go quietly into the night. A message not just of survival, but of strength. The transmission was simple, yet powerful. Humanity will stand. We will not be erased. We will fight to the last. As the message spread across the galaxy, something shifted. The warships hovering above Earth hesitated. The Thrall and Exshigar commanders had anticipated total annihilation, but the sheer determination radiating from humanity's message left them in a rare moment of uncertainty. A war that could not break the spirit of a species was a war they were no longer certain they could win. And then, from the depths of space, came the unexpected. A single ship, a Karen diplomatic vessel, broke through the lines, entering the heart of the conflict. Zelthi's voice rang out through the battlefield as the Karen fleet, small but resolute, surrounded the human defences. We do not seek war, Zelthi's message echoed. We seek understanding. Let this be the last shot fired. The galaxy cannot afford to lose what humanity has shown us today. In that moment, Walker realized that the real battle wasn't about firepower. It was about humanity's voice, and Earth had made itself heard. The war was far from over, but the first step toward peace had been taken. A new chapter for humanity had begun, one where the strength of its spirit could no longer be ignored. The silence had been broken, not with destruction, but with defiance, and in that defiance, Earth had found its true power.